In the news, we got 4 service members right now that the country is mourning for. And I remember thinking to myself, like, the way my brain operates, I think to myself, RIP. But then my brain immediately went to, I wonder how many people transitioned on the other side, you know? So I did my Googles, I looked it up. And so far in this conflict between America and Iran, there's been over 3,000 Iranians that have transitioned. And of that 3,000, I got the stuff right here. Of that 3,000, like 300 of them are children. You see what I'm saying? And so I thought about that. And then I was like, okay, well, how many people on our side have transitioned during this conflict? And it said 18. It said 18. So we got, hold on, I got the numbers right here. Estimates indicate that between 2,000 and 8,000 Iranians have passed away since the conflict began on February 28th, 2026. Because the independent verifications inside Iran are strictly limited, tracking organizations report a broad range depending on the source. So you got to take this into consideration. Like, you got to think about this. You got 18 U.S. service members versus between 2,000 and 8,000 Iranians. And then when you look, of these passed away, of these passed away Iranians, how many of them are children? Let's look this up real quick. How many of the Iranians that have passed away are children? According to reporting from the international monitoring organizations and news outlets, at least 383 children have been documented as transitioned in Iran during the conflict. So when you look at these numbers, right? I thought about this. If this was a movie, like if this was like a Marvel movie or something, we would definitely be the bad guys. We would 100% be the bad guys in the movie. It's really hard to kind of look at these numbers and not kind of hit the reality. Like, I remember but it's a conflict because you're American. You know what I mean? Like, you're like, wait a minute, I live in the country that if this was any other situation, I'd be like, nah, y'all are the bad guys. You know what I mean? So, and then my brain went even deeper down the rabbit hole, and I was thinking even further. And I said to myself, well, why are we here in the first place? Like, what are we doing in Iran again? Because sometimes it's easy to forget, especially when the reasoning given to you has no foundation. You tend to forget why we even there in the first place. We there because America, according to Mr. Cheeto Man, cannot afford for them to have the big bomb, the N bomb. All right. And I said to myself, well, that's the same exact thing we said in Iraq. And then, you know what? It hit me. It hit me. Every single service member that passed away in the Iraq war, their transition to the afterlife was in vain, because we allowed the country to do the exact same thing that got their lives taken away in the first place. And when you sit there and you kind of really think about it, how deep that is, it hits you a different type of way. It hits you a different type of way, because hindsight is 20/20. That's what they say. It's easier to see the full scope of things when you let time lapse. And as you let time lapse, you realize that we was there under false pretenses however many decades ago. When you realize that to be the case, and you realize that you're living that exact reality right now, just with a different country, well, those lives that were lost, because already those lives that were lost, it's already a loss because we there for some fake reasons, you know, like They was never gonna get a nuclear weapon. They was never a threat to the level that we spent money and lives and resources into Iraq. So their lives that were gone, it's almost like that damn near was in vain anyway. But then at least we could have at least said, well, you know what? We learned our lesson from those people that transitioned. We learned our lesson so much so that we will never allow this to happen again. We could have at least given their lives that value. You see what I'm saying? Like, you picking up what I'm putting down? Like it's like, because sometimes you got to find the silver lining to what you're unable to connect. That sucks. So you got to find a silver lining to certain things, especially when it comes to lives lost. You know what I mean? Because you don't want to think to yourself that these people passed away in vain. You want to think to yourself that their lives meant something, that their sacrifice was for something. But then when you realize that you in the same boat and you about to lose even more lives than the lives that were lost already, or now you can say that was a true waste of somebody's life. It really was. And as we look at the numbers with the 18 service members that have passed away, and then versus the 2,000 to 8,000 Iranians that have passed away, you got to ask yourself, what is the value of all of these lives that are being lost? What is the value? What did they say we was here for? Again, the same thing that they said that we was in Iraq for last time. So it's like, I think you do the people that are no longer here, the people that made the ultimate sacrifice for this country, a major disservice when you listen to something like, we gotta stop the country, that we gotta stop Iran from getting nuclear weapons, but yet they've so far lost thousands of people versus the 18 people we lost. Do you think if they had really any real significant military capabilities that those numbers would look the way they look? Like sometimes you got to sit there like, okay, they are a threat. They are such an imminent threat that we gotta send people over there and take out thousands of Iranians, which is facts. I'm not spreading any misinformation. I got it right here. We read it. We read it. It said it. How many people? It says between 2,000 to 8,000 Iranians have passed away since the conflict began. So we had to do that because of a threat. That's what they're trying to tell you. And when you look at the numbers for our side, it's 18. I truly don't understand how somebody could look at that and think to themselves, that's okay. And like, I'm an American, so the conflict is really within. The conflict is like, damn, if this was Russia versus Ukraine, if this was, actually, I remember when I was looking at the numbers on the, Israel versus, the people over there. I gotta tiptoe because you gotta be cool on these platforms. You gotta keep it PC. But we know what we're talking about. I remember looking at those numbers like, wow, that's called a slaughter. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's a slaughter. That's not necessarily a I wouldn't call that a battle. I wouldn't call that self-defense. I wouldn't even call that retaliation. In America, like, we got laws. Like, that's what happened with that Anthony kid, Metcalf and Carmelo Anthony. Carmelo Anthony was punched up, and then he did what he did with that sharp object that he had to that kid's neck. And we condemned him for that because the response wasn't proportional. So when I look at it on the biggest scale, on, the world stage, I'm looking at what happened with Israel. I'm looking at what's happening with America and Iran, Israel and Palestine. And then you say to yourself, like, oh yeah, like, we have examples, like we know what's considered proportional, what's considered self-defense, what's considered whatever is considered to be justified. But yet we turn the other, when, like, I'm not the type of person to turn the other way just because I was born here. You know what I mean? Like, that's just not how I wouldn't be able to function like that. I feel as if all lives are valuable. You know what I mean? An American life is no more valuable than an Iranian's. And just because there was and then you gotta think, and then it's messed up because, like, they truly passed away for no reason, you know. But anyways, these are the thoughts that kind of like permeate my brain, man. Like, I don't feel more sorry. If anything, I feel more sorry for the 300 some odd children who lost their lives in Iran. You know what I mean? I remember Donald Trump specifically said, I'll never forget this. This was during his first term, and I'll look this up if I gotta find the quote. It was a black soldier in Iraq, no, in Africa, and he lost his life. And I remember Donald Trump said something to the effect of, yeah, like, you know, that's what he signed up for. I'll never forget that. I remember being like, damn, like the commander-in-chief said, like, that's what he signed up for. So you look at that, and if I choose the same logic, those damn near 400 children never signed up to receive what they received, you know. But I'm sure there's a waiver to sign when you join the armed forces. Regardless, they should have never lost their lives anyway. But at the same time, I can't sit here and act like I feel more sorry for one side versus the other when we're not there for a just cause in the first place.